important for me to recognize how trite we can be and how much we expect just by being nice people that only good things can happen. And check it out, I'm going to tell you something. If you're a nice person, only good things do happen. But if you weigh it or measure it or try and prove it, you're going to get in trouble. So just understand it, okay? This paragraph has helped me to understand. This is not much spiritual effort involved, Casey, for avoiding excesses which already brought you punishment and you know will bring you punishment. Remember that, okay? Yes, there's an awareness, but how could you ever stop ego while you're in it? We all know what ego's like when you're in it, and we are the last to see it. You could say, Casey, you're in your ego, and I'll say, no, I'm not. You know, because I don't want to be in my ego. I'm telling you, I don't want to be in ego, but I don't know how it functions. I don't know how it functions till the damage is done. And because I built awareness of what it looks like, how doing things quickly, right? You ever been in a jam? Well, that's part of step 3. But in application, if I do things overly fast and I'm trying to get them done, no, overpack my day, I can do 2 things, but I put 10 things on my list of things to do. So I never get to any one of them because I'm too busy getting to the next one. That's a form of ego, but what am I going to do with that? As I'm going to look, oh, I'm massively in ego. It's just a characteristic within a specific venue that allows me to recognize that's where ego comes up. So it allows me to put it on my awareness folder, but I can't put it in, like in alcoholism, an untreated, unreasoned distortion of judgment. Remember how we deal with that? I can't see me, self won't reveal self to self. But yet at the same time with these steps, there are times when I recognize an unreasoned distortion of thinking that God allows me to rearrange. But I never get ego. Oh, you're an ego case, just act in ego. Rearrange that, put it back together because the damage is done. The alcoholism is a thought. Ego is an action. Okay, remember that. Alcoholism and self always start with thoughts. Ego is a byproduct of pride, so it's already in action. You see what I'm saying? We're in the thought realm with alcoholism and self. But when pride or ego steps in, it's an action. So it's not a thought. Well, you ever hear your ego warm up? Go, ooh, let's get revved up, buddy. We're going to get some stuff going. We're gonna really feel superior to a lot of people or good about this. Or I just never got that dialogue, but I have got. You look stupid. You don't look right. You dress terrible. Those are all things. And you know what? I can look at elements of ego on all those things. So bearing in mind, it's all connected. But the ego in itself, don't fool yourself to think you're going to find some way to master ego. Because who's telling you that other than the ego? The humility, the degree of humility is that my ego can flare up in an area you would never suspect. But for the grace of God, there go I. Of myself, I'm nothing. The Father doeth the works. These are the themes, and it's always a constant state of surrender. I never compromise with ego personally. 18 years later, ego to me is one of the most deadly aspects I could possibly interchange with, and I'm so humbled by it. I am so, to God, like, man, I don't even want any of it. And I never have had to really deal with an ego state or look back and recognize that ego has just created travesty in my life. Thank God, by the grace of God. But I got to tell you, I'm so disciplined. You thank me, I thank God. Something good happens in my life, it's only you, God. I apply that principle of myself as nothing. The Father doeth the works. In terms of applying that principle, the reason I apply that principle is because I know, I have learned, you can't compromise with ego. In terms of the ego state is that at 18 years, I still feel like when I first got sober about ego, it is so dangerous. I'm so, never want any part of it, and I always ask God to please protect me from my own ego and to let me be aware if I act in or get in or anywhere. I've always stated, and that's what Tebow does talk about, there is no compromise. You do not negotiate with ego. It is never okay. That's that reservation file on 6. It is never okay when I find I acted. I did that because of this. And if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done it. Ego is something you never authorize as being okay. If you recognize any part of ego, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Everything that happened after that point would have never happened had self not stepped in, ego stepped in to rearrange the cosmic scheme of that moment. Okay? What does that mean? I really love my defects. Ask some questions. Or you want to share it? Yes, I get what that means. Go right to lust. Anybody ever act in lust? I'm sure you guys haven't, but other people have, and I'm sure you've seen it. So if you've witnessed lust, can you not see where lust, that you could really learn to love or think you love lust? But you got to, and that's a battle, right? Because you've got to see the truth of it. You got to recognize lust is not fun. There is no good elements to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a deadly sin. There's not a side of it like, ooh, that's kind of cute and cuddly and fuzzy over here. Lust in the nature of it is. Therefore, I must find out what lust means to me so that I can recognize this is something I don't ever want to be in. Pride, same thing. See, the pride element is, like I said, I'm so humbled by my own ego and the act of it and the fact of how much trouble it can get me in. I literally sit here like an infant when it comes to ego with God. I'm just so much at God's mercy. I never want to touch ego. It's just something I never want to be in, and I keep that energy going forward and forward in my life because I just don't want any part of it. So I must take these defects and recognize where is it the point that I love them. Like greed. Greed's a hard one to say I love. I love kind of hoarding. I love kind of like sneaking, like if someone's giving something away that I like to sneak 3 or 4 while everybody else is taking 1, you know. Oh, I do like that. That does feel kind of cool sometimes. Get it? I have to find the area where I can be greedy. You know, piece of pie. Last piece of pie. What do you do with it? You cut it in half, what do you look at? The smaller half or the larger half? We all know what I'm talking about now? So I love it. I love trying to get to the bigger half. And then we learn, right? You know what? Doesn't matter. Take which one would you like? Of course they took the bigger one. There's pride again. So it spurns all. So I'm trying to treat greed and it spurs ego. You get the complexity of it, and it's just a piece of pie, man. Think about what it is in relationship. Think about what it is when you're interacting with people. Think about what's happening when you're in an emotional argument or you're in emotional confusion about how greed would work on emotions. I gave you more emotionally than you gave me. Now you're starting to get where it gets really troublesome. Piece of pie is funny. When it comes to emotion, all of a sudden I start weighing out. You know, I need more. You need to give me more. How many times you felt okay with someone in a relationship giving you more than you give them? That is dysfunction. Uh-oh, there's the word really love them. That's that part. It was like, man, that's ugly, isn't it? To be in a relationship, to know that somebody's giving more to you because they want to be with you, or they want that relationship, they want to be your friend, and you allowing them to keep giving you what more than in a balanced relationship. Now you're starting to get it. That's that back to 53 on 4, total inability to form a true partnership with another human being. So looking at that greed, it's very easy to find. It's very concerning when you find it to go, oh my God, that is ugly. Because what happens when I'm greedy on a sexual level? We know what happens. Cheating. What happens when I'm greedy on an emotional level? I leave you shortchanged. I don't reassure you. I don't comfort you. You reassure me and comfort me. That's how it works. And I'm okay with that. You know, and how does it work on a spiritual level? And on a spiritual level, it's really tough. It means, oh, I want that. I get access to that. I get all that stuff. You don't. It gets ugly. You get it now? Number 2. Pride, greed, lust. Now we know where lust is. How can greed get in front? Now you're starting to get in where greed gets in there. How many areas that greed can absolutely rip your life asunder and turn you into a basket case? So it's important to investigate those areas and look at what does greed, what am I like when I'm emotionally greedy? Anybody in here been sexually greedy? Anybody in here been emotionally greedy? Anybody in here been physically greedy? What about when it comes to chores? What about greed at work?